We are so honored to have with us our special guest, Carrie Prejean Boller. Carrie is a wife, mother of two, and advocate for faith, truth, and the protection of children. She first rose to national prominence in 2009 as Miss California, where she defended traditional marriage during the Miss USA Pageant, standing firm in her Christian beliefs despite intense public backlash. That defining moment set the course for a life rooted in conviction of over-compromise. She later authored Still Standing with the mentorship of President Donald Trump and has continued her work as an author, pro-life advocate, and champion for parental rights and religious liberty. On the National Day of Prayer, she was appointed by President Trump to serve on the White House Religious Liberty Commission alongside Bishop Robert Barron and Cardinal Timothy Dolan. A committed Catholic, Carrie entered the Catholic Church in 2025 and remains dedicated to defending First Amendment freedoms and the rights of Americans to live according to their faith. She is married to former NFL quarterback Kyle Boller, and together they are raising their two children with strong Catholic values. Carrie is currently producing and directing a film highlighting the stories of nurses who lost their jobs during the COVID-19 pandemic after declining vaccination based on religious convictions, ensuring their voices are heard and their rights defended. Thank you so much, Carrie, for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
We are so honored, and I am so excited for this conversation. Here goes Miko. Let me bring Miko up as well.
What's up, Miko?
I'm coming, just a sec.
Welcome, Miko. Thank you so much for joining us as well. I did send you the option just to open your camera whenever you're available. And, we'll get started. But first and foremost, Carrie, I think I speak for everyone, both on the panel and the viewers here, that we are so proud of you for willing to speak out the way that you did during that discussion at the meeting the other day. Before we go into that, I wanted you to share with everyone, if you could start off by informing everyone how you got involved in the commission in the first place.
Yeah, so I've known the president for almost 20 years. We've remained friends ever since Miss USA, and he really appreciated my stance back then and the bravery that it took to stand up for my faith. And so when he established this Religious Liberty Commission, he personally appointed me to be one of the 12. And I was honored to be on it, and I am committed more than ever to defend religious freedom. And Dan Patrick has no authority to remove me from this commission, so I hope the president upholds his promise to the American people and defending religious freedom for all Americans.
And you brought up, yes, and you brought up Dan Patrick. So Dan Patrick said Carrie Prejean Boller has been removed from President Trump's Religious Liberty Commission, and even going on saying that you hijacked the meeting. Were you shocked by this response for simply speaking the truth? And this isn't the first time he has tried to come after you to get you to resign. Is that correct?
Right. Yeah. Ever since I was appointed, I was posting about Gaza. I even reached out to Josie online. You can vouch for this, Josie. I was reaching out to so many people saying, hey, these, commissioners like Dan and Paula White were telling me that I couldn't post about Gaza. They were telling me I couldn't post about, not being a Zionist, or I couldn't post about, negative things about Israel. And so they hijacked this hearing. In fact, I think this commission should be shut down if the president does in fact remove me, because it just shows that this would be not a religious liberty commission. It would be a one-sided pro-Zionist commission. And in fact, I recommended Miko, Peled, who's on this live right now. I recommended Norm Finkelstein, Rabbi Shapiro, and David Spelvik to all testify as Jewish Americans here in the United States. And instead, they wanted to talk about a foreign country. I had to stop keeping track of how many times they mentioned Israel. So yeah, they're the ones that hijacked this hearing. I'm the only one that is actually upholding religious freedom and demanding that religious freedom be upheld in this country.
For all. For all,
Yeah,
not
for all.
just for a specific group of people. Yes.
Yeah.
And when did you start to truly understand what Zionism is, and what prompted you to start speaking out against Zionism?
Yeah. So, for many of the listeners listening, Protestant, so I was raised Protestant. And they really push that in the evangelical churches. They push that the modern state of Israel is some sort of biblical fulfillment prophecy. And so I started really studying that. I started studying Zionism, where that began. And it really led me into the Catholic Church. One of the reasons why I converted was because of this heretical teaching about Zionism being a biblical fulfillment prophecy. And not the main reason why I converted, but one of the reasons. And so I know a lot about this topic, and that's why I boldly said from that stage that I, as a Catholic, do not embrace Zionism as a biblical, prophecy fulfillment. And so the logical conclusion of what those 4 Zionist supremacists were saying on stage is that if you do not support Zionism, you're a hateful bigot. You're an anti-Semite. And so I reject that. And, I think that people of all faiths should reject it. And wanting to conflate the two, anti-Zionism with anti-Semitism, we reject. We obviously hate, we reject any type of hatred of all faiths, all religions, including Islamophobia, Christian hatred, and obviously Jew hatred. So that's not what this is about, but it's trying to shut down any conversation and obviously silence any dissenting voices, that criticize Israel. So that's where we're at.
Now, when you were posting, I think it was back in August about what's happening in Gaza, you were asked to remove these posts, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I was.
And almost said, and that's when they said they wanted you to resign. How did you feel that you felt like you were being silenced just for speaking for what's happening, what you're witnessing with your own eyes?
Yeah, I was really furious, and I was really sad because here I am on a religious liberty commission appointed by the President of the United States. And I thought that he cared about religious freedom. I thought that this commission was dedicated to protect religious freedom for all, including faiths that I don't hold firm to. That includes all religions in this country. And so to be removed from a religious liberty commission and to be told that I have to resign if I'm not a Zionist, that is un-American. That is antithetical to the reason that this Religious Liberty Commission was established. So the fact that the president is just, not making a statement about it, shows you the amount of pressure that I'm sure he's facing from these Zionist supremacists, telling him, remove her. Her voice has no place on this stage. In fact, if anything, I would say my voice does matter, and that people who aren't Zionists do have a voice, like Miko, Peled, like Norm Finkelstein, like Rabbi Shapiro, who are all Jewish Americans who are saying, I'm not a Zionist, so what does that make them? Anti-Semites themselves? This is crazy. And just them calling names just to try to silence you, that has to stop.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And I don't know, real quick, Miko, if you wanted to chime in and, kind of explain how you feel for, being called, an anti-Zion. Anyone that doesn't align with Israel is now anti-Semitic.
Sure, yeah, good to be with you guys. Thanks for inviting me, and good to see you again, Carrie. I just watched you on Katie Halper as well, you and Rabbi Shapiro, who's been a friend of mine for many, many years. I think what happened was that Carrie suddenly looked and said, "Hey, the emperor has no clothes. What are we doing here, talking about Israel? But we should be talking about or religious liberty." But I think perhaps the purpose of the commission wasn't really, and this particular discussion about anti-Semitism was not really to deal with anti-Semitism, but to deal with anti-Zionism and then conflate the two. And they keep referring to this new definition that has been kind of forced down everybody's throats over the last few years, which is called the IHRA working definition of anti-Semitism. And why does anybody have to abide by that? I don't know. I mean, they kept referring to it and saying, well, according to that, if you ... then you are anti-Semitic. And it's complete nonsense. Anti-Semitism is a phrase that's used for racism directed at Jews. And it's not like racism directed at Jews is some kind of a higher level of racism. Racism is racism. And if you are racist against one group, you're probably racist against other groups as well. But yeah, it's absolutely absurd. And one of the points that Rabbi Shapiro makes is that Jews are Americans. They just have that. They just follow this particular religion. Why do they have to show some kind of allegiance to this other country? And why should they be associated with it? And it's a very legitimate claim, and it's a claim the Jews have made forever, that Jewish people are a religious group, or a religious minority that live everywhere, and they are good citizens in whichever country they live. Why they have to, and of course many Jews rejected Zionism from the very beginning and continue to do so. It's a racist ideology, and the problem is that the Zionists here are worried because they're seeing more and more people realize that Zionism has nothing to do with Judaism. It's just a supremacist, racist, very violent ideology, and it produced so much suffering and so much instability and so many wars in and around Palestine. So why should Jewish people support it, and why do Americans have to pledge allegiance to it? And I think, again, like I said earlier, Carrie just kind of said, hey, the emperor has no clothes. This is absolutely absurd. And it's a very good thing that she did. So that's the way it is. And it's not something new. This has been going on for many, many years, both in this country and in the UK and in other parts of Europe, where nobody dares say anything about Zionism or even criticize Zionism, not even just reject it. But right away, they're accused of anti-Semitism, and they always bring back this strange definition that nobody really knows who or why they have the authority to tell us or tell the rest of the world what anti-Semitism is. But it's part of this effort. It's part of the campaign of conflating anti-Zionism with anti-Semitism. And of course, anti-Zionism, like anti-Semitism, like other forms of racism, are all, in the same column, I would say. It's all part of the same problem. Zionism is the same problem as anti-Semitism and racism and so forth. Rejecting that is the right thing to do. And Jewish people have rejected it, have rejected Zionism and other forms of racism, forever. So that's where we are. But this is the America that we live with. This is the reality that we exist in. And again, what Carrie did on this commission has brought it up again in a very big way. I mean, it's everywhere. Everybody's talking about it now.
Yeah, absolutely. And Carrie, you mentioned that Catholics do not embrace Zionism, and does that make all Catholics anti-Semitic? You never really got a clear answer. But what do you think makes it difficult for Christians, in your opinion, to separate current day Israel with biblical Israel?
Yeah, I mean, I was just simply asking questions. I mean, if we're going to have a hearing on anti-Semitism, I think it's important that we define the terms. And I kept bringing up the IHRA definition, and they didn't want to answer any of my questions. They did finally admit that their claim is that anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism. I finally pushed them to admit that, which was good that they were actually admitting that. And then the logical conclusion of that is, well, wait a second. So then does that make Miko Peled, a Jewish American, an anti-Semite? Does that make Rabbi Shapiro from New York an anti-Semite? Does that make me, a Catholic, an anti-Semite? And then where does that go? So it doesn't stop there. Are we going to start arresting people? Are we going to start putting people in jail for being anti-Semites according to these Zionist supremacists? Me being removed from a commission because I don't hold firm to that religious belief. What about my religious freedom? Where's my religious freedom? That should be the story. The story should be that a Catholic was removed from a religious liberty commission because her religion doesn't align with the supremacists on that commission. That should be the story. So yeah, it's very frustrating, and I reject it. I reject any type of hatred, including hatred of Catholicism, because that's what I'm witnessing right now, is a hatred of Catholicism, that my Catholic voice has no place on this Religious Liberty Commission. They should be ashamed of themselves. This commission should be shut down. It's illegitimate at this point.
Has the president weighed in at all?
No,
Nothing.
he
He
has
hasn't said a
not weighed
thing.
in. Nope, he has not. And he has no problem firing people. So I would like the president to man up and to admit my firing. Just admit it. I just sent the White House a follow-up email. This is my second email now. Only the president has the authority to remove me. And I would appreciate him coming forward and telling the American people that a Catholic who does not embrace Zionism is not welcome on his Religious Liberty Commission.
Oh my God, he's gonna. I don't know. The people around him are all Zionists. His son-in-law, all these people around him are uber Zionists, and so that's going to be. He's gonna. It's very interesting to see how he, if at all, decides to respond to this, because
he's getting pressure not only from MAGA, but he's getting pressure from the Democrat. I mean, this is a nonpartisan, bipartisan issue. I mean, I have Democrats reaching out to me. I have Republicans reaching out to me. This is an American issue. We're all Americans. Why are and I am, as a Christian, I'm the majority religion here in America. Imagine the minority faiths in America. Imagine how they're feeling. Wait a second. If a Catholic can be removed from a Religious Liberty Commission, what's going to happen to us? I mean, they didn't have a Muslim on the commission. Was their faith represented? That's deeply concerning. And that bothered me from the beginning of it. If this really is a diverse Religious Liberty Commission protecting people of all faiths, why weren't they represented?
Oh, absolutely. That is that's a very good point that you make. And I want also to have Captain Josephine, for those that don't know, Captain Josephine Guilbeau, she's a born and raised Catholic, a 17-year Army veteran, and she's been fighting against the Zionist empire. Captain Josephine, what is your take on this?
I think you're muted.
Oh, you're muted. We can't hear you.
Sorry, I'm so glad you brought up about how is this going to be applied to law, because here in Ohio, I actually just testified in front of the Ohio Senate where they are trying to pass SB 87, which would put the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism into law. And overlapping that is the criminal penalties of what that would mean. So for example, if I'm out doing some sort of protest or action to try and speak out against the genocide, if I say something that falls within the IHRA definition, criticizing Israel, criticizing Zionists, it will elevate my charges. So if I am protesting and the police say, okay, the permit is obsolete, it's time to disperse. If I stay standing there, I could get something like, obstructing justice or a misdemeanor, something. But if I am standing there and saying, I don't support Israel, I don't support Zionists, now that charge is riot. Now that charge is hate speech. And so, yeah, this is super critical right now in our country, that we all understand that what is happening, that we witness at the Religious Liberty Commission, is going to affect all of Americans. And as a born and raised Catholic, and I have seen people attack Carrie because she converted to Catholicism. Catholicism has been in my lineage as far back as I can trace to France, which is centuries and centuries. And I say it as a born and raised devout Catholic that we do not embrace Zionism. We believe that it is a political entity. It's like saying Republicans. It's like saying Democrats. This is not affiliated with Judaism. And so for them to try and infiltrate that into our religion, we have a duty to say, no, we're not going to do that, because they are going to hijack our religion. And then hundreds of years, history's going to look back and say the Catholics were also involved in the genocide of Palestinians because they didn't speak out, because they decided to stay silent, because the status quo was, we supported Zionism. And we are not going to let that happen. We are drawing the line right now as Catholics, and we are saying we do not support Zionism. We do not support what we have all witnessed on our phones, children getting massacred, this being normalized. This being normalized as a part of war. As now I go to my hat as a 17-year Army veteran. This is not how we conduct warfare. This is not normal to massacre children in the way that we have witnessed. And if we are going to normalize that as they are trying to do, what does that mean for the rest of the world? What does that mean for our children? When we go to war with a foreign nation, God forbid, but it looks like it could happen. What will that mean when they start targeting our children in this way? And then they claim, well, you normalized it.
Absolutely.
And people are already being arrested. In other words, the arrests of students during the encampments of college students and denying them some were arrested, some were kicked out, some were denied their diplomas, and this is going on to this day.
It's still happening.
And between that and what Carrie's talking about, this conflation and the demand that you must accept Zionism, all the way to the threats to attack Iran. This is all Zionist. This is all Zionist pressure. This is all about the Zionist agenda. It has nothing to do with the well-being of anybody, of any nation, of any religion. So these things are all aligned, and so, this is exactly what the Zionist agenda has been all about. And there's no reason on earth to support any of it. I mean, what the students did on campuses during the encampments was heroic. And what Carrie's doing up now, standing up and saying, whoa, why do I need to support Zionism? It has nothing to do with faith. And then now people are standing up also against the war in Iran, against attacking Iran. This is all exactly the same thing. It's all the same agenda. It's anti-Palestinian, anti-Arab, anti-Muslim, anti-freedom of speech, all boxed into this one ideology, which Americans and American administrations going back for a very long time have found themselves bowing to and agreeing with and accepting. And and if you don't, they'll put the fear of God in you if you don't accept it and support it, but not with the intention of preventing anti-Semitism or any other form of racism, with the intention of rejecting this racist genocidal ideology, which is what Zionism is. That's what this is about.
I'm so glad you brought up the war in Iran, because so often when I talk to people and to believe that, you guys all have to understand that many people are still censored to what was in our algorithm of what was happening in Gaza. And so they have perfected the algorithm so that people are being validated continuously with things that they've been constructed to believe, like the MAGA base, for example. And so, but one thing that is in their feed right now is Iran and the war in Iran. And that's why I'm so glad you brought that up, because if an American citizen can't understand what's happening over there in Palestine because it's so far and they've been constructed to believe they're all terrorists, at the very least we can have those conversations about, well, what about the American troops who are put on pedestals, American troops put on pedestals here in this country? What about the fact that they are going to go die for Israel? Can we have that conversation? Because me and Anthony had to come to terms with what took place in Iraq. I am learning this, since October 7th, the truth about the false reporting, intelligence reporting from Israel, pushing Congress to agree to invade Iraq, blaming it on 9/11 when they had nothing to do with it. And now we're looking at, and look how thousands of American troops died. And now we're looking at the potential for that to happen again. So those conversations are really helpful and impactful in having the average American person understand that this is all for Israel and it's all interconnected.
Yes. And I want to kind of introduce another panelist, because we're when we're talking about Zionism, many people are yet to understand what it is. And we have Gunnar Thorderson. He's an entrepreneur and political organizer who has been actively involved in Utah Republican politics, including serving on the state central committee and working with organizations like Young Americans for Liberty and Turning Point USA. He focuses on restoring grassroots influence, challenging entrenched political power, and helping build a new generation of leadership committed to individual liberty and accountable government. And Gunnar, you've recently, just over the summer, we've been talking, you've been joining our lives, we've been talking in groups about, Zionism, and you've just started to really learn and kind of start peeling the onion here. How do you feel now learning about Zionism and learning about how America is so infiltrated by by Zionists?
Yeah, no, thanks for having me, Taz. Honestly, I got to be careful what I say on here because every time you invite me on a live, I get banned for at least a month.
For speaking the truth, absolutely.
It's been crazy. Honestly, the last, what has it been, six months to a year, it's been an absolute roller coaster. I used to be one of those shills that would just give you all the talking points for Israel. And, I even after October 7th, I literally just looked away. I didn't really care that much. It was not front and center at all. Until I just got inundated with footage after footage after footage of the war. And I think I had to see it up close and personal. And I'm just what is this? What is going on? Why are they bombing just townhouses and condos and hospitals and schools? And they're bombing them while the kids are coming out for recess and walking out on the street. I mean, what is going on here? I mean, I was and we're paying for it. And it didn't take long for me to just start getting caught up to speed very quickly. And I'm the type of person that just once I realized wait a minute, this is what's going on. No, this is not okay. I immediately started speaking out, and it was the entire weight of the Utah political establishment came down on me with a force that was just whoa, we don't talk about this issue. We are pro-Israel here. And if you want to stay on your committees and you want a path here to be an elected official and future senator and governor of Utah, this is just an issue you're not going to talk about. And that made me just want to dig in even more. And so I put out a video, and guys, again, I knew nothing. I was not a scholar by any means. And so I was kind of just, getting on any podcast I could. I was accepting debates from everybody, and more so just to say, let me come on and just learn, pick your brain about what's going on. And very quickly I learned how deep this actually goes. And the main thing for me was learning about what Zionism is in practice is they're going into these homes with people who've lived there for 80 years, multiple generations, and they're showing up and they're saying, oh yeah, that permit you applied for years ago, yeah, that doesn't mean anything. We don't care about your permit. We don't even care about you as a person. Here's this Jewish settler from New Jersey that we flew in last week. He now has your home and you're gone. And these people are now homeless and they're now refugees, and they have to go show up at some tent camp that they bombed the next day. And I'm just this is disgusting. And we're paying for this through our tax dollars. It's our bombs doing all this. I just felt sick to my stomach every single day waking up, and I knew I had to get involved. And so I've been speaking out about this. It has not gone well for my political career, I'll tell you that. But I'm not going to stop, and it's because I have been raised since a child being told by the American media that the greatest threat to America is Christian nationalism. How dare we as Christians ever think that we could have a nation state where we are Christian? That's the greatest threat. Or white nationalism. How dare you ever as a white person say that we're importing millions and millions of people from all over the world to dilute your country. How dare we even have this conversation? And so I'm just like, okay, so it seems like rules for thee, where they get to have their own version of Jewish nationalism. They get to import people that literally take a DNA test the week before. Oh, you think you're Jewish? Here, take this test. You want to be Jewish? You want to be pro-Israel? Yeah, we'll make you Jewish tomorrow. And we'll let you have free property. We'll fly you in and give you special treatment. And but the second we criticize that here in America, the second we say, guys, this is not how we do things. The diversity in America, I think, is a beautiful thing. You know what I mean? I'm sitting at a cafe or at a restaurant, and we have every religion represented here. And you're very rarely going to find an American who actually is discriminatory against any type of. I mean, we just, as Americans, we're pretty chill, and we don't have Christian white nationalism here. I just don't believe it's that big of a problem. What I do see as a problem, though, is this Jewish supremacist nationalism over in Israel that wants to completely bomb and obliterate and genocide the other. And so I think we have to band together and we have to fight against that. And this movement to basically collapse criticism of Israel with anti-Semitism is their way to basically say, what we're doing in Gaza right now, we're going to go do it in Lebanon. We're going to go do it in Syria. We're going to do it in Saudi Arabia until we have the greater Israel. And you're not going to be able to do anything about it. You're not going to be able to say anything about it because that's anti-Semitism, because that goes against our goal as Israel. Oh, this is what we're owed. It's in the Bible. It's in the Bible.
But is it?
And the way we're going to go do it is we're going to bomb these people into oblivion with Palantir. And that's why I've got a big problem with the current administration. Because if you have been paying any attention in the last 6 months and you see how enraged the people are that we're not America first, if a right-wing populist can't be America first and can't go, hey, you know what? America is a majority Christian nation. That doesn't mean we need to be Christian nationalists, but it means we should have some representation here. But if you're going to go, yeah, no, we don't care about that. We're not going to protect the churches in Palestine. We're not going to do that. We're going to go give Israel whatever the heck they want. Here's some more billions and billions of dollars. That's not what I voted for. That's not what any of the base wants right now. And the response to that is they invite Benjamin Netanyahu back to the White House every other week. And we've seen no correction to say, guys, don't worry. Don't worry. We're for you guys. We're for the American people. We're for the Christians here in America. But we've gotten the exact opposite of that. And that's why, yeah, I am critical and I am raising the alarms about what has taken over the Trump administration, what's taken over our Congress. And Republicans and Democrats need to band together. We need to kick AIPAC out of here. Yeah. We need to make that a campaign issue front and center for this next year, for the midterms and into the future. And unless you can prove that you're not in the pocket of some foreign country, but that you truly put America first, you're gone. You're out of here. All 4 of my congressmen in Utah voted to keep the Epstein files from us, probably because of what's in there and the ties to Israel. They all got to go, in my opinion. It's time for new leadership. It's time for a new generation. All right, I'll be done. You guys take over. Thanks
wow.
So much.
Okay, Gunnar.
Yes.
Guys, Captain Josephine. Okay, so guys, wow. I am just so proud of Gunnar. Man, you came far, and I am just so proud of you. And Carrie, when you speak out and you tell the truth, you don't know who's listening. You don't know who's listening, and they're just kind of sitting there like, she's making a really great point. Let me do the work now to try to understand what it is that she's saying. And Gunnar is kind of an example because he did not know much. And like seeing that he is now the awakening, like we call it, man, Gunnar, I am just, so proud. And, Captain Josephine, I know we've had conversations with Gunnar and, kind of what do you think?
I mean, how long have we been in chat together? God, it has to be since last summer, maybe? I don't
Months.
even know.
Yeah, it's been a while.
It's been a while. I mean, I always believed Gunnar and people with similar characteristics as Gunnar truly want to know the truth, and that they would change their mind with the truth. And so I'm happy to see him do that. And I'm also happy to see that he represents that for people in America that truly want to see American citizens thriving. And we aren't doing that right now. And watching billions of our dollars go to massacre children, like those two puzzle pieces just aren't fitting anymore for the majority of American citizens. And so for me, it's like, one of those like blessings to see someone come to the truth. And then not only that, but then use their voice, because the next step after knowing the truth is transitioning into speaking out about it. And so bravo to Gunnar for that. And then also, Gunnar, are you still a part of the Young Americans for Liberty?
I'm not as involved. I was super involved in college. I did the free speech balls. I'd collect signatures. I was a field director for them. Then I became a field director for Turning Point USA after that. But they actually just recently reached out to me via email, and they were like, "Hey, we're looking for a national director. Do you know anybody?" And so I'm still super. We're in good terms, and I appreciate the work that they're doing. They actually introduced me to Thomas Massey. They were the ones that introduced me first to Thomas Massey back in the day. And you look at someone like Thomas Massey right now, and it's like he's standing alone on an island, fighting for all of us.
Yeah.
And he's the only brave Republican right now. And so I'm grateful for like libertarian minded Republicans out there that are aren't so afraid of Trump that they'll go against him when they know it's the right thing to do. And so I just think the treatment by Trump of Thomas Massey and Marjorie Taylor Greene, running her out of Congress, it's just been a massive stain on our party. But yeah, to answer your question, I'm not super involved. I've been out of college now for over a decade, but I still keep in touch with the organization, and I'm super proud of their work.
I want to show you. I just got this shirt.
Oh, that's awesome.
I joined mainly to be able to help them support Thomas Massey in the upcoming elections, and also to be a voice there as someone who leans more conservative to say we're not going to be standing with Zionists.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, I want to jump in for just a second.
Yeah, of course.
If it's okay, something Gunnar said about Israel taking over all these other countries all around it, and I'm sure many of you have heard that the U.S. ambassador to Israel just said that would be fine. That if they want to take it and they take it, that's fine. And just one other thought: the biblical claim that suddenly all Israeli politicians are putting out there now, that somehow Jews have a right to return to the Holy Land. I don't know any Jewish person that can trace their roots back to Palestine. And nobody has a deed to their home or knows where they live. I mean, none of that exists, right? It's a whole other story. I won't get into it. But when we talk about the right of return of Palestinians who are thrown out and are living for generations now in horrible conditions, languishing in camps, sometimes they're close enough where they can see their previous towns and villages and so forth that they came from. When they talk about their right, and here at Palestine House of Freedom, we believe very strongly in that right, and that should be implemented. They're told they need to forget because it happened a long time ago, 75, 80 years ago, they need to forget. So, but they have the deeds to their homes. They still have the keys to their homes. They build cities and towns and industry and agriculture, but they need to forget, even though people are still alive who remember, and when they go to the ruins of their village, they can find their homes. But 2,000 or 3,000 years ago, because Jews are claiming today, or the Zionists are claiming, that they are descendants of the Hebrews who lived there 3,000 years ago, that's acceptable. You know, the world's completely upside down. It's completely insane. People who are claiming rights from thousands of years ago are saying, yeah, that makes sense. People who can show the deeds to their home, remember where the villages, the names are still there. They say, no, you got to get over it, move on. You can't. You're going to stay in refugee camps for eternity because, too bad. You're Palestinians. You don't get. What kind of world do we live in that this is okay? That this is how the conversation takes place, and nobody says, wait a minute, are we out of our minds? Is this really something that we support? And never mind, pay for, exactly. and so forth. So there's lots of levels here, but I think, again, the right of return, and you may have heard Human Rights Watch just prepared a report showing how it's a crime against humanity, and at the last minute, the leaders of Human Rights Watch decided to wait and not put it out. So two of their highest employees resigned, and one of them I just interviewed, Omar Shakir. But this is a crime against humanity in and of itself. The suffering the Palestinians, millions of Palestinians are going through just because they're not allowed to return to their homes. And I think, Gunnar, you said it too, somebody from New Jersey can land and take a Palestinian's home right there, right now. And it's happening all over Palestine all the time since the apartheid state has been established. So almost 80 years this is happening, and Palestinians are seeing this happening, and the world seems to think it's okay.
Yeah, so it's continuous.
Another layer of this.
Oh, it continues.
I'm sorry, I hate to run, but I gotta go. So
do you have 1 minute, Miko, for me to ask you a question real quick? If you can, if you have 1 minute, just because I wanted to, it's about, Zionists, when you explain what's happening, like, for example, during the hearing that Carrie was at, when she said it was what's happening in Gaza is a genocide, there was immediate outrage, specifically why Shabbos Kestenbaum, I believe his name is, that the only genocide was on October 7th. Why is it so difficult for them to describe what we've been witnessing and what's happening? Thousands of innocent women and children being killed, evaporated, now that we've seen at least almost 3,000 just poof, no evidence of them through these weapons that are being dropped on them, and being ethnically cleansed as genocide.
Well, they don't want to admit it. They're pretending that it's not happening. They don't want to admit it. But, a large percentage of the people in Gaza, more than half the people who live in the concentration camp of Gaza, or the death camp, I should say, are refugees from other parts of Palestine. You could see some of where they came from a lot of times when you're in the Gaza concentration camps. You can see the places they came from, and they see settlers from other countries coming and taking their land. But people like that, it's not that they don't know or they don't expect or they don't understand. They know fully well. They understand fully well. They don't give a damn. These are brown Arabs who are being killed, and nobody cares. So let them die, and we will defend the Zionists. They will commit one crime against humanity after another, after another, after another. Every credible human rights organization calls it apartheid, and not just calls it apartheid. I mean, the Amnesty report on apartheid is very thorough. And I tell people, read that and you won't have any problem arguing with Zionists ever again, because it's got all the detail. And then there's genocide reports and another genocide reports. And the UN rapporteur, Francesca Albanese, has been sanctioned, and she's not allowed to come to the US because of the genocide report. It's insane. They are so scared that they won't admit, even though they see it and they know it. They won't admit it because they agree with it and they think it's okay.
Thank you.
No, you got to go, Miko.
Ahead,
thank you so much for coming on with us. But
sure,
yeah, no, the point about the Shabbos Kestenbaum, that's when it really hit me. When I said to him, something along the lines of, well, these college kids that are protesting a genocide in Gaza. They're using their First Amendment right in the United States to protest that.
Right.
They have every right to do that. And he's like, no. The only genocide that's going on is on October 7th. And I'm like, as soon as he said that, you guys, it hit me. Like, they literally look at these Palestinian people as subhuman.
Yes.
They don't even look
Yeah.
at them as human beings. And me, as an American citizen who grew up in this country, I will admit to you that we have been brainwashed in this country to look at Muslims as the enemy, to look at all Muslims as terrorists. And I reject that. I reject it. And so they've wanted us to believe that if they kill Palestinian people, majority of them Muslim, we are just supposed to excuse it because they want us to think that they're subhuman. And when people like us who are on this live right now, Anthony, Gunnar, Josie, Miko, when all of us from all different faiths, all different backgrounds, all different, walks of life come together and say, actually, no, they're not subhuman. And for you to want to control our minds and our words and deny our eyes what we're seeing, the genocide in Gaza, shame on you. No, they are human beings just as we are. And if we call ourselves Christians, we better be speaking out about this. We are called to. It would be a betrayal of our conscience not to.
Right. All right. Thank you, everyone. Take care.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And
Thank you so
actually,
much, Miko.
Anthony Aguilar, I really want him to jump in because, Huckabee just called you a liar last week. So I'd love to know what you have to say, Anthony.
Welcome, Anthony. Thank you for joining. For those who don't know who Anthony Aguilar is, he is a 25-year veteran U.S. Army Green Beret who went to Gaza and blew the whistle on the genocide and is now awakening America to the control of Zionism. So welcome, Anthony. Go ahead. The floor is yours.
Well, I'm really happy to be on the panel with Carrie. I have immense respect for you and your courage, and I know that speaking up and speaking out against the odds and against pressure is not easy, and it comes at a high risk. And when I watched you on that panel and how you were speaking, it really inspired me further to continue the work that I'm doing, because you were simply asking rational questions that any rational-minded human being in this world right now in these times should ask. And that's how the targeting comes back on you. I think that what Zionists and the powers underneath the Israeli government have done very well is create this Teflon around all of their actions. And that Teflon is anti-Semitism, in that if you criticize genocide, if you criticize the starvation of women and children, if you criticize anything that they do in the West Bank, in Lebanon, or in Gaza, then you're an anti-Semite. Without reason, without facts and evidence, it's a Teflon that they've created that unfortunately has been very effective up until now, and we're seeing cracks in that. And so, as you mentioned, Ambassador Huckabee, in his interview with Tucker Carlson, what stood out to me about that, I was watching it when it released, and Tucker Carlson and I communicate directly, so I knew about the interview. I did not know about that aspect of it. He did not share that with me, so it was kind of a surprise to me. But when I heard it, what stood out to me is that in the moment of that discussion, Tucker and Huckabee, they were not talking about Gaza. They were not talking about aid. They were not talking about GHF. They were having a discussion about Zionism and Israel's inherent supposed biblical rights to the land. They were talking about a legitimacy of Israel type of conversation. And Mike Huckabee stopped him in his tracks in the conversation to say, hey, I want to ask you something, and then specifically injected my name tied to the situation concerning a young boy named Amir. And that kind of concerned me a little bit, because I see that now, one, the Israeli government, and two, Mike Huckabee, and three, the powers that be that surround those entities, both in the U.S. government and the Israeli government, know me by by name, and I am in their head. And that's a good thing, because it means that if what I said and what I've been saying didn't have any weight or legitimacy, they would be ignoring me. They wouldn't care. he came out and specifically called me out about an incident that directly ties the UG Solutions, the contract company, the GHF, and what everyone should know is that the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation was simply a front company, a facade for the CIA to operate in Gaza to collect intelligence through the guise of humanitarian intelligence. That's why they started. If you look at the first director of the GHF, his name was Jake Wood, former founder of Blackwater and then later Triple Canopy, a paramilitary force that was used in Iraq to great failure. And then the later GHF's director was the person put in was Johnny Moore, who is a self-proclaimed evangelical Christian Zionist. So when you look at the structure of the GHF and then the pillars of the GHF, who is actually the body of it in terms of the contract, the personnel, they were all CIA. And when I was in Gaza working with the GHF, there were blue badge carrying, that's a CIA operator, blue badge carrying CIA operators there working in Gaza under the GHF. It was all part of an intelligence scheme using humanitarian aid to go into Gaza under America trying to provide aid. So when I look at all those things, and then particularly Mike Huckabee calling me a liar, and what I would say is that it's further indicative of what's happening in our country and in our administration. Last night, Donald Trump lavished and praised the military with medals of honor and a Purple Heart for the National Guard soldier who was shot in DC, and the Legion of Merit for another pilot, and just lavishing awards upon the military and thanking them for their service. And looking at that, I'm like, okay, well, I served in the Army for 25 years as a Green Beret and fought in 12 wars and Purple Heart and Valor Awards. And yet Mike Huckabee, without cause, calls me a liar. And no one in the administration or no one in the government can say, hey, we don't badmouth our veterans. And the reason they're doing it is because of the Zionist control over Mike Huckabee and this desire to hide and try to mitigate the genocide and the war crimes, because I am an eyewitness to it. I'm not just someone that is outspoken or an advocate. I was an eyewitness on the ground, a human being that's not Palestinian, that's not part of the Gaza Health Ministry, that's not part of a NGO that they've successfully managed to label as pro-Hamas. I'm an American soldier who served 25 years in the Army. I went to West Point, where the motto is duty, honor, country. And what I saw with my own eyes, that was also captured in video and pictures, is going to put them in jail. Mark my words, I will not rest until this goes to the point to where the ICJ brings this to the ICC, and or when we have an administration in this country that cares about accountability and genocide, they will be prosecuted. Those that partook, those that were involved, Mike Huckabee, being an ambassador, political appointee of which he is. Remember, he is not a career foreign service officer. He was a political appointee. So when this administration ends, so too does his tenure end. And he is not protected by that diplomatic status. He will face criminal charges. And one of the most damning things is this killing of Amir. And what's made it worse for them, and what they've done now with Mike Huckabee's interview that he's now connected himself directly, is that this young boy Amir visited.
Just real quick, Anthony, I am so sorry. Give me 1 second, because I know, Carrie, you do have to go, I believe. Is that correct? 2 minutes. Okay. So we'll real quick, I'll let you, real quick, Anthony, if you want to just explain the story right there, and then we'll get a final word from Carrie before she has to.
I'll synthesize. So yeah, this young boy came to the site. He was killed by the IDF. I brought it to the attention. I had the evidence, the videos, the pictures. Weeks later, a journalist for the Middle Eastern Eye, his name was Mohammed Salama, had evidence that corroborated what I saw from a Palestinian perspective on video. From what I saw, you can even see me in that video that the guy's videoing from the other side, and of this young boy being killed. So he was working on a story to reveal this. Well, on the 23rd of August, Mohammed Salama was detained and interrogated by UG Solutions and the CIA and Mossad, and then let go. They biometrically enrolled him and tagged him. And then on the 25th of August, he was killed at Nasser Hospital in that double tap strike. So if you look at the Nasser Hospital double tap strike and you go back and you see when that first round hit the hospital, Mohammed Salama was the reporter wearing the blue press vest standing out on the balcony of that hospital when it was hit. And that's because UG Solutions and the CIA biometrically tagged him and tracked him, and then the IDF killed him. He had the evidence of Amir's death. And then coincidentally, the following week, they come out with this whole new story of, oh, look, Amir's alive. Here he is. And since then, with this child that they've proclaimed was Amir, no one can interview him. No one knows where he is. No one can corroborate any of their evidence. They just say it and expect everyone to believe it. And that's what Mike Huckabee was doing. I know that from the way he brought it up, Mike Huckabee was specifically fed that talking point to specifically address that issue because the house of cards is falling. And soon Americans and those around the world are going to see the connection of the CIA, Mossad, Shin Bet, contract companies by the United States, U.S. tax dollars going into this, all funneled into this greater Israel plan, which starts with Project Sunrise and the real estate expansion of Gaza. It starts there. So it's this house of cards is coming down and they realize it. And, you know, they can call me a liar all they want. For Mike Huckabee to call me a liar is laughable. He's done nothing to serve this country.
Absolutely. 100%. I mean, we're that interview really opened the eyes of a lot of individuals of, you know, is Mike Huckabee representing the American people or those of Israel? But Carrie, I wanted you to just kind of give us some last words before you had to go. I mean, you're doing an amazing job, just like everyone here on the panel who are speaking out for the truth and what they believe and will not be silenced. So just a final few words from you, and we'll wrap up that interview from here.
Yeah, I just want to applaud all of you. You're all my brothers and sisters, and I'm so grateful to be on the front lines with you. You know, we all have a role in this war. And we all care about America. That's what we all have in common. And so I want to thank you that you are not a slave to money. You're not a slave to access. You're not a slave to fancy parties. You are committed to the truth. And I stand boldly with you, linking arms with you guys. So we're in this together. And I love you guys.
Thanks, Carrie.
We love you too, Carrie. Linda, did you want to say something? One of my co-hosts just wanted to say something.
It's a pleasure to meet you. It's good to see you all, Josie, Gunnar, Anthony. Just real quick, as a Palestinian listening to this, I have goosebumps. This is what we mean when we say that Palestine is freeing the world. We are not freeing Palestine. You all come from different walks of life, and we are here together with one mission. So I applaud all of you. I thank you. I have the utmost respect for all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Wow. Absolutely.
We love you and we're fighting for you and your people.
Oh, thank you so much, Karen. I just want you to know there's so many Zionists listening right now. And that just means when they're trying to, you know, flood different platforms that are speaking the truth, that you are doing the right thing. And please continue doing the right thing. Your voice is so important. Thank you again, Carrie, for joining us.
Same with Anthony, Gunnar, Josie, Miko. Thank all of you. You guys are fighting with me. Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie.
God bless.